Hi, this is Randy Pennington.
This is Joe Calloway. Randy and I talk about leadership. What's on your mind today?
Let's talk about high-performing teams.
Yeah,
Super Bowl is just over a few weeks back, and so we've had two high-performing teams. One of them obviously a higher performer than others.
Way more better high-performing than the other.
But let's talk about high-performing teams, because every leader says, I want to have a high-performing team.
Yeah. So what does that mean? How do you get there?
Well, first off, there's a piece of that starts with everyone on the team knows what their responsibility is. They know what role they play on the team. But mostly high-performing team is about two things, a high-performing team and high-performing organization. It's about, you build it through one, people.
Yep.
There's a high trust level, there's strong communication, people understand their roles, but there's a strong people focus that everyone is appreciated and valued. And then the second thing, though, there's a high process focus.
Yeah.
So that the team knows exactly what it's doing at all times. There's a process built into that. Yeah. We drove by one of my favorite places this morning on the way over here, one of your favorite leaders out there, a guy named Carl Sewell that owns car dealerships, about 17 of them at this riding. And one of the things that Carl has, by the way, would you say that's a high-performing team?
Absolutely.
He's number one or number two in sales and in service and all the car dealerships. One of the things that he has, though, is a process for everything. If it involves a customer, which is what their obsession is, there is a process. And if you simply follow the process, you're going to score an 8, 9, or 10 on a bad day.
You know who I think about when you say leadership and process, and I'm about to hear some boos from some of the people, Nick Saban, head coach of the University of Alabama football team. He is all about process. He said if you are an offensive tackle, if you are the nutritionist, if you are the tight end coach, if you are the weight coach, strength coach, if you are the quarterback, everybody knows exactly, and to me this gets back to focus, which I think is so important. Everybody has clarity on what to be focused on, and everybody has a process. And Saban says, whenever we make a mistake, it's because somebody didn't execute on the process.
And sometimes, I agree with that. And by the way, I think one of the reasons people don't like Saban because he's so good.
Well, yeah, he's good.
I mean, he's great.
You can't argue with that.
But see, I think there are times, and this is where we have to, as leaders, understand that following the process doesn't necessarily mean you're always going to get the great result.
No, that's exactly right.
And so there are people who go, well, you didn't win, but we follow the process, and the numbers will win out over time.
Yeah.
Over time, you will get there if you follow the process. I get really interested in watching teams that are rebuilding in athletics, especially in pro sports, because there are people that go, I'll go out and I'll buy a great team and we'll win next year. Mm-hmm. That usually doesn't work.
Right.
There's usually a process of putting together a championship level team that takes a long time, which, by the way, I know you do team building focused events. I do them as well. Those events are important, but realize that's just a snapshot in time. Building a great high-performing team is an everyday,
all day long
activity.
Job. So if I'm a leader, a manager listening, watching this right now, what would you say are a couple of things to take back, to pay attention to immediately in building a high-performing team?
First off, do your people trust you? Mm-hmm. Is there trust within the organization? Do they trust each other? By the way, here's a good way to know that there's trust. When people don't trust each other, they tend to protect their own interests rather than the team's interest. Yep. They look out for themselves. So look for that first. Is there a high trust? Trust is the foundation for any team. Now, part of trust is competency, part of it's communication, part of it's clarity. All those things go into it. The second thing I would say is, what are your processes? Look at every single process that the team performs. Make sure they're defined exceptionally well. and then learn to execute on those things every day.
And it's amazing how often there'll be a company that sometimes is doing pretty well, but you start digging in looking for processes and there aren't any. And you say, well, if they're doing well, they don't need a process. Think how much better they could be doing if they're obviously great talent and great energy were focused into a process that they went back to and executed on every single day.
Here's my reaction when somebody says, we're doing well, we don't have any processes. Congratulations, you have a happy accident.
Yeah.
You are one employee probably away, that person leaving or for whatever reason, from not being able to perform.
Tell you something else about performance. Maybe we can start to wrap with this idea. When there are companies I work with and leadership teams I work with that will have a recurring problem. It's like, it seems every month or so, we run into the same ambush. We trip ourselves up. Somewhere there's a messed up process.
There is a process there.
Or no process. And you need to go, instead of fixing the symptom every month, go back and look at what's wrong with the process.
Here's the question I always ask. This may be a good way of thinking about this for your business. I think there's a continuum. At one end of the continuum is you solve one problem 100 times. At the other end, you solve 100 problems one time. You want to be closer to that end.
Yeah. Great idea to finish with.
Good. See you next time.